labeled as friends of peace and foes of war. But quickly he added, "Could I be an intermediary for you and say what I know to be true, that the U.S. truly wants peace?" The response pleased the president, who hoped the Pope might influence President II, a Catholic, to move toward negotiations. He talked about how people in Texas like to have stickers on their Fords, "Made in Texas by Texans." "I would like a slogan in Saigon that says, 'Peace in South Vietnam, made by the Vietnamese,'" Johnson remarked. They ultimately agreed to a joint statement about their discussion. The Pope objected to a line, "We will never surrender South Vietnam to aggression or attack," afraid it would appear he endorsed the war. The president struck it and left pleased with the outcome. He immediately boarded the plane for the final leg home, reaching the ranch on Christmas Eve. In less than 5 days, the president flew more than 28,210 miles and spent 59.5 hours in the sky, and a total of 112 hours away from the White House. Lady Bird Johnson observed when he arrived home on December 24, Lyndon was riding high. He hoped by his presence in Vietnam to give evidence of his special feeling as commander-in-chief for those troops, and he had made one further effort toward peace by meeting with the Pope. But while feeling good about the trip, the president and his family had experienced a tough year in 1967. In many cases, Vietnam lay at the heart of most problems plaguing the administration. Across the country, people marched in the streets, and some picketed outside the White House chanting, "Hey, hey, LBJ, how many children did you kill today?" Nothing frustrated Johnson more than Vietnam. Early on, he lamented, "I feel like a hitchhiker on a Texas highway in the middle of a hailstorm. I can't run, I can't hide, and I can't make it go away." People around him recognized the toll it extracted. Undersecretary of State Nicholas Katzenbach lamented, "Vietnam, Vietnam, Vietnam. It got in the way of everything." Jack Valenti stressed, "It was the Vietnam War that cut the arteries of the LBJ administration." Even those outside his inner circle recognized the strain. Senator George McGovern, Democrat, South Dakota, left a dinner party at the White House in late 1967 and described LBJ as a tortured and confused man, literally tortured by the mess he has gotten into in Vietnam. He is restless, almost like a caged animal. But he would not retreat, and it caused horrific outbursts. In a private meeting, reporters pestered Johnson to explain the U.S. involvement in Vietnam. A shocked U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Arthur Goldberg, watched as LBJ unzipped his fly, drew out his substantial organ, and declared, "This is why." Vietnam alienated important sectors of society and widened the chasm between Johnson and his chief political rival, Robert Kennedy. Journalist William White wrote in December 1966, "President Johnson has had to bear a frightful burden in the unremitting hostility of the Kennedy cult and its common attitude that the man in the White House is not simply a constitutional successor to another man slain in a memorable tragedy, but only a crude usurper." It was a mutual contempt. LBJ often used the term "that boy" that became, according to one reporter, Johnson's unloving nom de guerre for Robert F. Kennedy. The White House kept files on Bobby's public appearances, including speeches, press releases, and television shows going back to 1964. The war also led to a significant break between Johnson and Martin Luther King Jr., who increasingly denounced the war by 1967. Since the Voting Rights Act in 1965, Johnson and King had sought new dragons to slay in the struggle for civil rights, but neither achieved much success as King shifted to economic issues and Johnson focused on fair housing. However, the summer of 1967 exposed continuing frustrations with unfulfilled expectations after the major civil rights victories. In July, race riots broke out in Newark and Detroit. In the Motor City, police raided an African-American club, which provoked a confrontation that led to rioting and looting. Governor George Romney ordered in the National Guard, which one journalist characterized as a ragged, jittery,